And we're back. After I'd say a disappointing day yesterday, or yesterday evening in my case, I'm in Flight Simulator 2024, right? And I already played a while with it, did some testing with it, found out some interesting stuff. Also some stuff which I would say didn't like that much. But let's start, of course, with the things which we do like. So first of all, there are a lot of options, right? There's the world photographer mode, there's the activities, the career mode. And if we would now select the activities mode, compared to what we saw yesterday, you can now see a lot more, right? If we look at the landing challenges, yesterday there were only a few of them, but likely they have added some more things over now, right? So these are the activities which now have been activated as part of that, I would say, fix, which is hopefully rolled out in their estate. Also this one, right, the famous flyers, you can see a lot of flights there where you can practice your landing skills. And of course, we've got those epic ones, which contain some very special ones, including Courchevel, right, which we know from Flight Simulator 2020, and several other ones which we knew from Flight Simulator 2020. So pretty nice that they have added this. And then last but not least, of course, we've got the strong wind ones, which also contain the most of the content which was already available in Flight Simulator 2020. But enough about that, right? So if we go to the for the site, we also have those discovery flights, and those discovery flights, they will contain mostly the content which was already there in Flight Simulator 2020. But again, it's polished with, I would say, the latest updates, also with the latest content, right? So if you look at London, for example, this looks really cool. So that will also be my starting point, right? I'm keeping an eye on my chat. So if you want to, let's say, ask me something, or you want me to do a certain thing, specifically in Flight Simulator, right? Go to a specific location, let me know. In this case, we're going to go with for the flight design CTSL. One of the things which I discovered, by the way, is that, let's say, the controls which are there, right, are not that good. To be honest, I'm using the Velocity 1 flight system, and I'm busy with reprogramming all the keys. Some of the keys are really, I would say, logically mapped, but other ones are not really logically mapped, right? For example, if you thought, okay, hey, I'm gonna change the view of the camera, that has completely been changed. So keep an eye on my channel, because likely once I figured out what the optimal stream or what the optimal camera buttons are, or joystick buttons are, sorry, then I will definitely post it, right? So let's go into the start exploring mode. It says bandwidth too low. Well, I can't imagine that. Let's see how that works, right? Bandwidth too low, come on. I've got enough bandwidth, my friends. Likely it's on your case. So while we're looking, right, let's have a look at how this will continue. So it's the London event. As you can see, loading, I would say it isn't that fast, but it's also not that slow. Keep in mind that you will get all the content directly from, let's say, the Asobo end, right? So you will directly, let's say, get their content from their servers. And let's say that saves you a lot of disk space. That's something I'm 100%, I would say, agreeing with. But in some cases, I would say, it makes it a little bit tricky, because there's also dependency on that cloud. So in this case, you can see that it takes a little bit longer as expected. And this morning I did a flight above the Netherlands. That one went pretty smooth, right? It loaded within a few seconds, I would say. During the alpha testing, I saw that it was, I would say, much quicker compared to how it was previously. So likely there's still some fine-tuning required on the back end to optimize this. I see a lot of people are tuning in, 3 watchers currently, so welcome to my channel, welcome to my live stream. Leave comments in the chat box, right? Let me know what you thought about Flight Simulator 2024, or your first experience about it. Hopefully you are also able to, let's say, join the simulation, because a lot of people were kind of, let's say, being, I would say, trapped in the issue yesterday, that they were in that login queue. And that login queue was immense, right? That login queue, simply a lot of people ended up there, which resulted in a lot of nasty things. I'm continuing to talk, right? Because we're still in that London event, but it takes a little bit longer as I hoped for. And that's, of course, always tricky when you do these live streams, right? Especially with this new software, you don't know what's going to happen. It could go, I would say, the right direction, but in some cases it goes the wrong direction. In this case, it looks like it's going the wrong direction, right? But I will leave it running for some time and we'll continue keep talking. So again, if you're watching this live stream, then feel free to post any chats there. Ask me anything about Flight Simulator 2024, but also let me know what you thought about the, I would say, or what you think about the solution, right? Is it good? Is there some improvement required? Should they, let's say, should have waited, right, to be to make it more mature before they would release it? Because currently you can also see that even these live events, or the London event in this case, I would say loading, I would say takes some time, right? And it takes some time. I would say I'm not too concerned about this, but I would say I would have hoped that it would load a lot faster compared to what I was hoping for, right? Rotterdam, the Hague Airport, tried it this morning. That one worked pretty smooth, where I was really, I would say, quickly up to speed. It took some time before it loaded. I think less than a minute, and then I was able to fly. In this case, you can see that you can't do anything, right? You can't control anything. Even the mouse cursor has been gone, but it looks like it's still loading the event. So let's keep our fingers crossed that it loads. If that's not the case, right, then we would say, then we of course will switch to a different mode. One of the downsides of this is that you can't go back. As you can see, there's no back button where you can say, hey, I want to cancel this. I want to go back to the main menu, which is likely something which we would expect in the coming days. But let's see how that goes. Should have selected the free flight mode, right? always the wrong selection here. But let me know. Let me see what happens, right? I can't press escape, right? Because that doesn't work, of course. But I can, let's say, can wait. So let's leave it running for some time and then see if it continues. So again, welcome to my channel. I see more people are tuning in, which is good. Always have fun when people are joining. So again, drop your questions here if you've got any questions. In the meantime, we're waiting to the London event to be loaded successfully. It could take some time before they load it, sorry. If it takes too long, I will say make some corrective actions on this, right? And simply quit Flight Simulator and then start again, which I know is a huge risk, right? Because if I do that, I could end up in that login queue again. Because let's say more people are awake, more people will start playing Flight Simulator. So that's a huge risk from my end. But it's a chance which I would like to do to take, right? I'm not gonna take this, I would say, for granted that it takes this long. So maybe we should do that, right? So if you're ending up in this scenario, right, just like me, you can do two things. You can, let's say, wait. In some cases, it will continue. In some other cases, you will see that it will not continue. If it doesn't continue, I would say you need to wait. Oh, see, if you treat it, then I would say it will be warning you. And while we're speaking, you can see that it takes a serious amount of bandwidth, right? 200 max, it touched it. So let's hit ready to fly and let's have a look at it, right? So here it is, right? So Flight Simulator 2024, flying above London. This is, would say, really cool, right? So we just departed from this nice airport, which is behind us. It's London City Airport. And we're already airborne. We're flying over those points of interest, and those can be enabled or disabled, right? If you don't like to see these, I would say, kind of markers above the buildings, then you can still do that. So let's change the view a bit. And here you can see that the points of interest are looking really cool. But for the other buildings, right, which we're just passing, they, I would say, don't look that nice. Also, it says bandwidth too low, loading times may be extended, and world streaming is degraded. That likely has to do with the live streaming, which I'm currently doing. So it could also be that the results of this is that, let's say, the quality is less optimal compared to what you are experiencing. To be honest, I'm doubting that the internet bandwidth is an issue because I've got a 1 gig link, so it should definitely not be an issue. So if you're flying using this mode, right, you can fly and you can watch all those nice things. Let me switch on the audio for Flight Simulator, right, because you can also enjoy that nice music, and also, I would say, enjoy the watch or the view of all flying above London City. You can see that this aircraft is really nice, right? It's so nicely modeled. I'd say there are a lot of options over there, and you can even control everything, right? You can move the flaps using the velocity 1. It will likely work, but in this case, you can see that even the flaps are not working in the controller. So that's something I really need to have a look at. So let's say decrease the altitude a bit. Let's also decrease the engine power a bit, and let's fly a little bit lower, right? Because we want to have a look at how London looks like. As you can see, the data isn't loaded completely, right? Because you can see a large portion of the city is simply missing. Again, it could be the bandwidth which is causing this issue, but I would doubt. If I fly over this, I would say I'm kind of pretty disappointed how this looks like. This morning I flew over the Netherlands, which looked, I would say, pretty cool. It looks like that they only loaded portions of the city, and a lot of the content hasn't been loaded, right? So that's, I would say, pretty well, nasty that they didn't do that. I'm not sure what's causing this, of course. Again, it could be the live stream, which is, I would say, causing this issue. But it could also be that the server side, again, is, I would say, being throttled massively. You can see that, I would say, less and less buildings start to load, which is not that nice. And I would say I would have hoped that it would work a lot better. So I'd say that's London, right? So you can see points are there, but the rest of the city is really, I would say, a nightmare, if you ask me. So let's try something different, right? Because we don't want to watch this, I would say, this scenery, because it doesn't make any sense. So to do that, we simply hit escape, right? And then we go back to the main menu. Because I want to show you another mode. So we're gonna zoom out again, and then we're gonna select free flight. Free flight is the option which you can use for multiple things, right? You can simply, let's say, select an airport from which you want to depart. So for example, if I want to fly from Rotterdam, the Hague airport, I can search it, and then it will zoom into that area. That will make sure that I can depart from this one, and then I can continue flying to a different part, right? So where shall we fly to? Well, let's go to the south part. Let's go to Ostend, and then say set as arrival. So once you do this, you can see that it draws a line, but it doesn't really define a flight path. To do that, you need to open the electronic flight bag. You can either use it, do it using the tab, or you can simply press this option over here. In this case, you will see that it will provide you some information about the zero fuel weight, the total payload, the passengers, the cargo. If you add it, you can do that. You can see that it's still flying above, where is it? Above London, I think. Yeah, it looks like London. So it still thinks it's there. But that's, I would say, that's for now, right? What you can do with this, right? You can simply click the option find route. And if you do that, what it will do is it will try to figure out what a route could be which you can fly. In some cases, you will see that the route will be really easy because there's really nothing special about it. But in some other scenarios, as I've seen, you can, I would say, try other things. Like, for example, we can fly a longer flight. Let's see if we can do that. In this case, right, you see that nothing happens, right? It also can't find any options. And between brackets, the bad thing is that you really can't move it unless you, let's say, expand it, right? Like this, then you can start moving around stuff. Let me see if I can add a waypoint. Yes, you can do that, right? So what you could do in this case, search for a facility. For example, you can add one of the waypoints, which over here, right? So let's assume that we want to fly over this one, Echo Hotel Bravo Uniform. Then we can add that as a facility and then say, okay, add. And this will make sure that it's being added. But in this case, as custom run, right? And that's something I don't want to do. So I'm going to remove the waypoint over here. And then you will see it directly removes it, hopefully, from also this flight plan. So let's click remove. And if we've done that, we can click on this one and say add. Because for some reason, it didn't do what I expected it to do. So now we're flying via this angle, and we're flying, I'd say, towards Ostend. One of the things which you can do is change the runway, of course, but by default it will take the active runway, and the same thing is applicable to the destination airport, where you can also do the same thing. On the top of the screen, you can define the cruise altitude. You can either set it to flight level or feet. In my case, I changed it to feet, which is fine for me, but of course you can decide to do it a different way. Now, once you've done that, you click on file plan with ATC, and here you see something weird happens, because if you click that button, it will really go like this. And it has to do with that, I would say, departure, right? So the departure procedure already contains this information. So in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this one from the flight plan. So I can say remove, because then it makes sense, right? Now it flies with a kind of a logical path. So make sure that you hit the file by ATC again, then send the route to the avionics. That will prevent that you need to manually configure it in the aircraft, but of course you can still do that if you like that. On the bottom, you also see the option to load a flight plan, right? If you created a flight plan, for example, using SimBrief or any other tool, you can, I would say, also load it here. Then the flight rules. So the flight rules bring you to this window, which will allow you to select the flight rules which are applicable, but also provide your registration information, the airline which you're using, right? Which contains, let's say, a lot of airliners which are used in the normal world. You can define your off-block time. And if you hover over these, you can see, okay, hey, I want to have the off-block time. Well, let's say, what is the time? 11:30. Then I can move it, right? You can do it like this. You can set this the transponder like squawk mode only in my case, and set the flight type, and that's, let's say, what it is. Besides that, of course, you can define the other options such as the number of passengers, the cargo, and here you see the information about the cargo, like, okay, the empty weight, the maximum total weight, the estimated takeoff weight, and those are in pounds. But you can change those settings via the settings menu if you want. And here we've got the fuel, so the taxi fuel in £5 for taxiing, and then the contingency fuel and a final reserve 3. That's fine for me. And then you can go to the checklist or the navigation log, which will provide you all the information which is there. Good for you, but not better, is that there are also some maps. And those maps can be really easily accessed via this electronic flight bag. In some cases it might be a little bit hard to see, but you can zoom in and then move around where you can find some information about these airports, right? So you can find the information from the departing airport, but also the destination airport, which is again really cool. If you prefer to change some settings, you can also do that because there is a settings button on the bottom where you can define how big this tablet size is, what the let's say units of measure are, right? LBS, GAL US, feet, etc. And then you can change your favorite bars, which is what appears at the bottom, right? So at the bottom, you can see, okay, hey, what is the let's say what's the active aircraft, what's the pilot book, then the settings, of course, and then the flight planner itself, which we're currently in. So if you want to schedule the flight, let's do that, right? Let's go to this one, let's close it, which will bring it back to this page, then close it again, hit escape, and then select the aircraft which we're going to use. In this case, I want to fly using one of the airplanes, so I'm going to select airplane, which will put a filter on this. And here you can see all the aircraft which you do own. What graphic settings do you have? Talking ban, fan number 1. Well, I can show you, right? If I'm looking at the settings, if I go to the frame rate has been set to 30 and the rest has been set to high or ultra. It has to do with my graphic card, which is a 4090, which should be capable of handling this. I'm just checking in. Can you spawn into Rodos, please? I want to have the island looks. Well, let's do that. Welcome, Ben. We're going to have a look at Rodos. So change of plans in this case. We're going to escape, and then we're going to reset the flight plan. So keep in mind that in some cases, if the flight plan doesn't reset, right, you can click escape, and then you can say free flight again, that it will still remember that flight, because to completely get rid of the flight, what you need to do is completely, let's say, delete the flight from here, right? So you can say reset over here, and then it will likely reset the flight. Sometimes it takes some time, right? Even I would say some cases you can even see that I would say the flight is still there, but don't worry, simply click those items and then you are good to go. So Rodos, you said, right? Rodos. So let's see Rodos. Oh, I would say not that good at geography, but I think Rodos, where is it located? Rodos. Help me out. Let me find it. It's in Greece, of course. So let me find Rodos. Let me see if there's an airport located on that island, Rodos Airport. Is there an airport over there? It's Rhodes. So where can we find it? Can we find it? Well, in that case, well, let's fly over this, right? So these are the islands. Any specific island you want me to fly over? If you are, then please let me know via the chat. While I'm searching for the ICAO code, right? So Lima Golf. Let me see if that's in. Lima Golf Romeo Papa. That's the ICAO code. Diagoras, Rodos, and Rodos is without an H, apparently. Not sure if that's spelled correctly. And then have a look at it, right? So this is the island. So this is the, so we're gonna set this one as the departure by default, right? And that's the island, right? So let's change the aircraft, or yeah, the aircraft to, I would say, normal aircraft. And then let's see. So we're gonna use the Cessna 172, right? Let's do that one. This is the one. We can change, of course, we can configure it, right? And by pressing the configure option, you can change the, for example, livery, which you can fly. You can also change the aircraft type, because there's a cargo, an aerial advertising, the amphibious, cargo, the skis, and other stuff. But for now, we will leave it like this. Livery one, we will keep it as is, also like this. So hit escape, and then we're gonna go back, escape, and save back, and then say start the flight. So we now start the flight. And as you can see, it zooms into the map. In some cases, it might take some time before it loads the stuff. Don't worry about this too much, because eventually it will load the flight, right? So here you can see it went pretty quick, to be honest. And once it has done this, you can see you can press the ready to fly option. So by default, you're outside of the aircraft, but you can use your shift keys. So shift number 1 up to shift number 7 to change the views. So in my case, I'm gonna set the flaps to the correct, let's say, degrees. I'm gonna decrease the engine speed, but also remove the parking brakes. But here you can see the things which which I really hate, right? This is about all those controls with Flight Simulator 2024, which are reset at every time. So be aware of that you might have some issues with, let's say, the controls, as you can see, because it looks like that it doesn't, let's say, take that into account. Luckily enough, I know that I can also, let's say, change it like this, right? I can change the parking brakes using this method. Then I can change the view which I want using the shift and then the different numbers. But I can also do that using the joystick, because that eventually works. So let's increase the speed of the aircraft, and then let's have a look at it. So we're going to go to this one and then see if we can do a free flight. One thing to keep in mind is that by default, the navigation is set to the localizer, not to the GPS. So that could have an effect on the, I would say, on the autopilot, right? If you're using the autopilot for flying, then it could have an impact on that. So be aware of that. So we need to watch out, right? Because I pulled the aircraft a little bit too far, and that will almost go in stall mode. And now we can, I would say, watch around, right? So let's have a look at the islands. So here we can see the island. So let's push the boundaries a bit. Here we go. And now we're flying, right? If we would press the up arrow, then you can see that it will change the view. So let's reduce the flaps a bit. But again, here you can see that the controls for, in this case, the Velocity 1 flight system haven't been set up correctly. So that's something which you need to keep in mind. Yeah, you're correct, right? Using the shift and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, you can change those views, right? So if you don't like the views, you can still do it. As you can see, I also can, I would say, change the views using my joystick, which is of course really nice and makes it easier. Screen is black. Yeah, I also see it. Why is the screen black? Why doesn't it say cast? It says I've got an excellent connection, which is weird. So let me have a quick look at that. Because that's not what I want. Of course, I want you to also see what's going on. So for some reason, it switched to the wrong view. I'm not sure why. Let me know if you can currently see it. I do expect that you now should be able to see it again. It took take a few seconds. So you should be able to see it now again, Talking Ben. And that has to do with likely one of the shortcuts, which is also bound to, I'd say, OBS Studio, which is, I'd say, kind of overriding the ones which are in Flight Simulator, which made it to switch to the web view instead of the, I would say, other view. So while we're flying, right, you can see a lot of details, right? If you can see the, I would say, nice weather, can you check the beaches on Rodos? Those were shit in 2029. Well, 2029, that's really, let's say, new, right? Because 2029 has never been released. 2020, yeah, you're correcting yourself already. So let's have a look at the beaches themselves, right? So let's fly to, in this case, we're gonna fly into this direction. I'm gonna fly to the, it looks like the southern part of the island where I do expect some beaches to be there. So keep in mind this might take some time, right? So let's see if it works. So in the meantime, let's see if I can adjust the flaps over here, right? I don't think so. So maybe I should go inside the aircraft again. Let's have a look at it. Then I'm hoping that I don't press the wrong buttons. So let me know if you can still see everything, right? So keep me informed about this because I, of course, don't want you to lose the view. So I'm gonna set the flaps to up and then change the view again to that external view. And then let's see if we can have a look at it. So, I mean, the graphics are good. Yeah, that's, yeah. If what's worth 80 euros, Ben, the current version or the previous version? I think I would say that they made a lot of optimizations, right? If it's, is it is worth the 80 euros, I would say that's always would say up to yourself, right? If you want to spend this amount of money on now Flight Simulator, I do think that it's worth the money, but I do think that there's still a lot of work to do, right? For example, what I would say, as already mentioned, I think that the controls, how they're set up compared to how they were with Flight Simulator 2020, it's a complete change, right? If you compare it with the settings from the Velocity 1 flight system, I would say almost every button has changed. Where previously you could press the B4 button, and B4 is now completely a different functionality, which isn't, I would say, what I like to see. But hey, that's how it goes, right? They likely made a change, a huge change, which also caused that they couldn't import those flight profiles or joystick profiles anymore in Flight Simulator 2020, 24. Still need to get used to it, right? So we're flying, as you can see. So we're flying above Rodos. We can see the beaches almost. So here are some beaches. I'm not sure how accurate it is. I do think that it would say from high elevation, it looks okay-ish. Yeah. So it really depends, Ben, right? So it really depends on how much you have or which graphic card you have. As mentioned, I've got a 4090 card, which is, I would say, really expensive. It's a lot of investments. And also, I built a complete new rig for Flight Simulator 2024 because likely my old system, which contained a 2070 card, also wasn't capable of handling it. Also, keep in mind that the memory, etc., needs to be pretty high, right? 32 gigs recommended, 64, I would say, for high performance. But as you can see, is it worth the money? I do think it is, but hey, I can't decide for you. So let's see. Let's see a talking fan number one. Let me know what your specs are, right? While we're flying. And also let me know what you think about those beaches, right? It still could be that those beaches, I would say, are better when I'm not, let's say, flying and when I'm streaming to, because streaming also consumes some bandwidth, although not that much compared to how it is with Flight Simulator itself. But let's see. So you bought it via, or you're considering buying it via Steam. Yeah, that's also an option, right? Yeah, 4060. Yeah, 4060, then you likely need to decrease the, let's say, graphic options a bit, right? Another option, of course, is if you don't want to buy a PC, buy an Xbox, because that also, would say, is capable of handling a lot of, let's say, graphical performance. That could also be an option for you if you want to move to that one. So currently we're flying right above Rodos. So this is the beach band. This is what you asked for. This is how it looks like. I'm not sure if you were expecting this. Let me know if you thought. Let me know what you think of it. You can also see that a lot of helipads have been added to roads, which makes it, I would say, really pleasant to fly on. I'm going to decrease the engine power a bit, right? Because we're almost going into overspeed. Uh, so let's see. Planes on the ground looks kind of cartoonish. Yeah. So let's fly back to the airport, right? Let's look at those. I would say aircrafts. Let's see how cartoonish they are looking like. You can see that the aircraft itself looks pretty good, right? It all keep in mind it also depends on really the I would say the content which is available, because you can see, for example, the part which we're passing now, which looks like to be a village. It doesn't look that detailed compared to the other stuff, right? You'll see some stuttering sometimes happening, but overall, I'm pretty happy with the performance for now. So still pretty cool, right? So flying over roads where we, I'd say, based on the question of talking ban, right, to look at the beaches, and he mentioned that it looks, I would say, better. But let's see if the airport also looks better, right? Um, while we're flying, right, let's also have a look at inside of the cockpit. Oh, let me double check if I didn't change the view. I didn't, shouldn't change. But it looks like we're still, let's say, live casting, right? Oh, pressing the wrong button, and that's one thing I really need to get used to, right? So you can see that the cockpit looks pretty nice, right? And wrong button again. Sorry for that. Uh, I'd say is really detailed. So one of the things which I already mentioned here is that you need to watch out, right? Because by default, the say the navigation system has been set to localizer number one, and if you're using the autopilot, you might want to change this. You can do that by pressing the buttons, which are of course now hidden behind the yoke. So we can hide the yoke also, right? If we don't want to see it. And then you can press this button, which will change this option, and then it will select the GPS, because that's eventually likely the option which you want to use initially. Um, so that's something to keep in mind. Other things to keep in mind, right, is that you can, I would say, change the views. Also with the keyboard, you can navigate, but in some cases, at least that's what I prefer, is to watch over the cockpit, because currently we don't see a lot, right, which doesn't make, let's say, flying that pleasant. But hey, let's have a look at where we're flying to, right? So on the left side, you always have that electronic flight bag, right? Which helps you, let's say, navigating to the, I would say, to your plan. So you can watch it, right? You can, if I scroll a little bit further into it, you can also see, okay, hey, if you defined any flight route, but if you're in the air and click on this button where you would normally see the route, you can see a map which has several options available, right? You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can change the map settings over here. So a lot of cool things are there. If you don't like this, you can still go to the aircraft, which will bring you to the aircraft and which will give you the flight performance as well as the, let me have a look at where I'm flying to, as well as the checklist and the aircraft information, right? So the aircraft information, it's grayed out currently. I do expect that this, I would say, is kind of normal for now, but I hope that they will fix it, because one of the things which I figured out is that they changed some views over there, right? So can you have the taxi charts? Yes, you can also have them, right? So let me show that. So I'm going to quit this flight and then I'm going to show you where you can find that stuff. So if we go to the main menu, we're going to leave Roads. It was nice, but hey, let's try it another time. If you click on the flight map, for example, if you are departing, in this my case, right, go to Rotterdam The Hague Airport, I can select it and then it will zoom into that map. So if it zooms in, you can open the electronic flight bag, and if you view the electronic flight bag, you can also watch in the flight planner. So in this case, the flight planner gives me some information, but also gives me some more details about certain things. For example, I can look at the flight rules. I can also look at the airport itself, right, which is now being set as the departure. Not yet. So let me do that. Echo Hotel Romeo Delta. So you can see you can easily type it in. And this will launch this menu, right, which is marked as purple. And inside that one, you can find the charts. The charts are there for departure, arrival, approaches, airport, and miscellaneous. So the one which you should have is the airport one, which will bring up this menu. So you can view the facilities charts. If you're pressing this option, it will show this view. In some case, you might need to, say, zoom in a bit to see it. The facilities map is not really useful in my case, but in your case, Ben, you're likely looking for the ground chart, which will contain this information, right? So in this case, you can see, okay, what are the aprons? What are the taxiways which are available? And that's all included in Flight Simulator 2024, I'd say, out of the box. And this is a huge advantage because previously what you would need to have is either use the public, I'd say, source on the internet, or you would need to buy the Navigraph subscription. So that's something I'm really wondering is how many people will, I'd say, continue using this. Yeah, that's also what I'm agreeing with you, Ben. It looks like that Navigraph will be out of business, although keep in mind that they're, I would say, adding some more functionality in the Navigraph, like, for example, ATC integration, which Flight Simulator really doesn't have, right? With external ATCs, I mean. But this looks, I would say, really, really cool, right? If we go to the rest of the maps, right? So let's assume that we want to depart from this. We can open the standard instrumental departures, which is the SIDs, and then you can filter on the runway. So for example, 24 is the active one now. You can say, hey, I want to go to it, and then it will simply open the map and will show you all the information which is available. So pretty nice view. I really like it. And besides that, you can also look at, I would say, the these are the maps, but these are, I would say, the departures, arrivals, and approaches, and then showing it on the map, right? That's, I would say, simply, I would say, for you to get some more information. Now, the good thing is if you add an airport as, I would say, a departing airport, what it does is it shows you also other information, such as the weather information, also the latest weather information. As you can see, it shows you the runways which are available and the frequencies if you decide to, would say, switch frequencies, right? So these are the information which is available as we speak. In this case, we're departing from Rotterdam, The Hague, from runway 24. That's the airport which we're departing from. And then you can easily add multiple waypoints. You can add standard instrumental departures by pressing this option. And of course, also define your destination airport, right? So if we want to go to this one, which I would say is pretty close by, then we can also use that. And then if you press the option on the bottom, which has file plan with ATC, you can see that it has created a flight plan, right? It's on the background, so it's hard to see. And the thing is that you can't move this electronic flight bag unless you expand it in this window, because then you can do everything with it. So that's really, I would say, really cool to do. So it has created a flight plan, right, straight out directly to this airport, and then we're good to go. You can see that in this case, there's nothing on the checklist besides the airport facility names, right? So those are really being displayed here. That really makes it useful, because then you shouldn't, would say, be too worried about if you're landing there or departing there, that you need to find the charts which are applicable in that area. So pretty nice view, as you can see. Other things which you can, of course, do is change the weather conditions, right? So here it says the customized is set to the preset, which is kind of weird, right? Because we want to have the live weather, of course. Also make sure that you check these options yourself, because this was the default setting, the preset by default. Also, the air traffic is based on live data, and you can, of course, switch off that you can see all the other players or not. That's, of course, up to you if you want to do that. In my case, it's by default, it's set to off. It could be that Asobo has made these changes due to the fact that I would say the server load was already really hammered, and maybe they're decreasing the server load using these options. Flight conditions can be changed here again, right? If clicking this option, it will change. But enough about this, right? So let's zoom out, because we're going to have a look at the world photographer mode. Because the world photographer mode is really a cool mode where you can, let's say, look at multiple things. For example, you can do the America's national parks. You can fly over the world's most famous monuments. You can look at the USA bridges, the iconic sites in Asia, the shades of season, and then multiple other ones, including plane spotting, which you can do. You can do plane spotting narrow bodies, and there are really cool things. Gliders, for example, stunning cities, spaces, the skies beyond, and then New York City tour, right? So you can select that one, and that will bring you over to this menu where you can select the multiple options. So in my case, I want to fly that Statue of Liberty one, which we can do it, but it's night, right? So that might not make sense currently. Let's do the Paris tour in this case. So let's see if we can fly over the Notre Dame. Based on the stars, right? The stars will show you how complicated the mission is. So you might initially want to start with a lower one. For example, 1 star. Then will show you the information over here. And then you can say select. Once you did press select, it will give you the main objective, photograph the Louvre Museum. As well as it says, okay, hey, the bonus conditions from the Jardin des Tuileries is the public park directly adjacent to the Louvre. So this is the bonus point which you can get. So keep that in mind, and that's, I would say, really cool. I'm seeing more conversations. Say, have you tried the 737 MAX? No, not yet. Here again, you can see that the bandwidth warning is there, but likely it's being caused by either the live stream or by, I would say, the server at Asobo. Because if you would look at, I would say, my network speed, you can see it's 1%, right? So 1%, come on, guys. This really, I would say, 9.4 megabits per second. It's a 1 gigabyte network, which I would say I'm not buying it. This is a bandwidth issue, to be honest. You can see that the GPU is really hammered, right? 43%, only showing this, which I would say is kind of special. But again, the bandwidth which is using is not too high. Things which you need to consider is if you're streaming like me, then of course the loading time could increase, right? So it could be that it needs to load more information. Although I do also expect there are still some issues on the end of Asobo where they simply need to figure out some stuff because their server capacity is not, I would say, well sized maybe. Not sure if that's the correct wording. But hey, let's see if it works. It can take some time, right? Also with London, don't be surprised if the city looks really messy, because that's also what I had with London. I'd say, and if you saw how, for example, Rodos looked like, right, which Talking Ben asked for, that one looked really, I'd say, cool. So I think a lot of the things have to do with some caching, which still needs to happen at the back end. One of the things I'm still trying to figure out is, okay, hey, can we, for some reason, for example, cache some aircrafts locally or cache some regions locally? Based on my research, I couldn't find an option to, for example, download an aircraft, which means all the stuff, including the aircraft, needs to be downloaded, which, okay, is fine, but hey, it will take some time, right? So let's open the Task Explorer again. See what happens, right? Especially with Flight Simulator. And you can see that based on this, it really doesn't do anything, right? So there's really nothing happening. It's 0.1 megabit per second. Nothing more than Edge, for example. But hey, still need to wait, right? So I do think throttling is being in place. You can still see that the CPU is being hammered, that there's 10 gigs of memory is being used. But as you can see, it's still waiting. So again, I'm pretty convinced this is caused by the, I would say, server load issues which Asobo is experiencing. But let's give it a few minutes and then see if we can watch this one. In the meantime, I see people joining, people leaving. If you want to leave, more than, I would say, more than okay is if you want to do, or if you want me to do something special with Flight Simulator, then also let me know. So it has now loaded the stuff, right? So which will bring in this one. There's a question from Positive Rate Aviation. How long until the shared cockpit will be implemented? I'm not sure. I would say I'm not working for Asobo, so you should ask them. Maybe join, I would say, one of their live streams where they are going to explain it. I really can't comment on it. I know that it was being discussed, but it was not there yet. So in this case, we're going to fly above the Louvre Museum. Then, of course, there are some challenges because you're going to fly with this nice Guimbo Cabri G2 aircraft. Then you can zoom in, zoom out, of course, right? Because we need to, I would say, take it from this park, which is the bonus point, right? So from this park, we should take the photo. So we can, let's say, do it from here and then take the picture over here. So let's hit start exploring. So for this, to make controlling a little bit easier, I connected my Xbox controller. I see a Positive Rate Aviation asked Echo Delta Delta Foxtrot. Yes, I will show it after this one. Here you can again see the warning, right? Bandwidth too low, loading times may be extended, or quality might be degraded. Again, I don't buy it, to be honest, because I don't think that is the case. So here we are with the Guimbal G2 helicopter, right? You can see multiple points are there. You can see some stuttering happening, but that could be explainable. So let's hit ready to fly, and then let's see if we can fly this nice helicopter, right? Let's first try to see if we can really, I would say, figure out where that Louvre is. So we're gonna, let's say, fly around and then see if we can find the point of interest. I do think it's over there, right? So let's make the turn. And this is how Paris looks like. Well, I've recently been there, and I can say, okay, it looks pretty cool. Although there's some errors, right? Because you can see a very large tree here, which I don't think is there, to be honest. I'm also trying to figure out how I can throttle and increase the throttle. Then it says bandwidth low again. It's going to increase the throttle again. So a very large tree. So I would say, I think we should call the Guinness Book of Records because I can't imagine that the tree is like this. So we're going to change the helicopter direction, but it doesn't look good, right? So we're going to crash. So sorry for this, we're going to crash because likely the controller didn't work as expected, right? So we're here, we're good to go. So let's fly, right? Let's also make sure that the, let's say, throttle has increased because I don't see it happening, to be honest. Here we go. So throttling is there. So throttling is back, but you can see that the RPMs are decreasing for some reason. I'm not sure what's causing it. But hey, I'm not a helicopter pilot, right? So in this case, you can see that I'm really having issues with it. So you really can't fly with this. So that's also something which I observed is that I would say, especially if you look at the, so we're crashing again, right? Bad example. So what I observed is that I would say the controls, and especially the way the controls have been set up, is really a nightmare. That's something which I would say definitely needs to be improved. And also something which I would say I'm going to look into because this I would say is not really, I would say, pleasant to fly with, as you can imagine, right? So we're going over here, right? We're going to look at where is that location. Oh, you can see it's on the marked on the spot over there, right? There's a picture over there. So, and in the meantime, I'd say the aircraft is going to crash again because the throttling is not reacting, right? So that's really, really frustrating. Also, let's say if you're increasing the power, you can see it does it for some time, but not a lot of times. And then you can also see that the quality has went down massively also. So maybe we should, let's say, skip this one and continue with the Boeing 737 MAX and then try to have a look at EDDF. which is one of the, I would say, nice airports in Germany, if I'm correct. You can see that this part of the city looks pretty cool, right? But the other part doesn't look like that cool. So there is likely are some issues. I'm not sure what's causing it. If it's my machine, I don't expect it, but it could be. Or if it's the server end again. So right here, you can see a helicopter flying. But again, controls are a nightmare for the helicopter. So likely I need to adjust it. And how to adjust it, let me quickly show you while we're crashing. If you are, let's say, kind of new to the game, you can go to the settings. And inside the settings, you can find the controls. And the controls are really special because the controls do have some special options, right? You've got the controls over here for the gamepad 2024. You can see that there's some special controls assigned to this. And if you press this option, you can go to the options or to go to the controller options over here. The thing which is a little bit nasty is that it's hard to figure out which options have been set. Yeah, Talking Ben says it's too blurry. Yeah, but I do think that it has to do with the low bandwidth because you would have seen those other buildings which look much better. So in this case, decrement, increment, the collective is B and A. Okay, that's good to know. So maybe we should press the B and A button in that case. But here you can see the things which are there, right? So you can see helicopters, and then you can see general, and there also is one option over here, which is not set there. It's a special controller for only the Cabri G2, which it looks like to be combined, but I'm still trying to figure out if that's the case. So you can see that you've got the controls on 3 levels. General, helicopters, and then specific ones. And that's also applicable to the other controls which you have, right? So keep that in mind. So keep in mind pressing A and B, right? Increasing, decreasing power. So let's try. Let's give it a try if we can save or flight. It looks like we can save or flight. Although I'd say it's the collective, right? It doesn't really help. So we crashed again. Well, I'm kind of done with this. I'm gonna, I would say, move to Echo Delta Delta Foxtrot based on specific requests. So I'm gonna press going to the main menu, and then we're gonna do our free flight. So we're gonna switch to Echo Delta Delta Foxtrot, and then search it. That's Frankfurt am Main, right? So this is the airport. In this case, we don't want to use this one, of course. We want to fly, between brackets, a real airplane. And this is where you can see the collection of airplanes, right? Depending on the option or the mode you have, you can select one of those aircraft. In this case, the Boeing 737 MAX, which is available as a Boeing business jet. So hit escape, and then let's zoom into the map. Where you can see, it's already some people parked here, right? So here you can select the parking spot. In this case, let's say park the aircraft close to a gate. Making sure that we pick the correct gate, right, which is big enough. The medium. Oh, let's try. Set this departure, and then say fly now. Again, it will start loading the content, right? Loading the content because everything is stored in the cloud. So keep that in mind. You can see that it now starts to populate more things. So while I'd say while playing this, likely what I'm gonna do is once I don't stream, I'm gonna compare if it loads much faster. I do think that might be related. So in that case, I might need to decrease the, I would say, quality of the stream a bit. Because of course I don't want this flight simulator to be affected. Here you can see that warning again. Bandwidth too low, loading times may be extended, and world streaming degraded. And world streaming is the part which you saw above Paris, right? Where some parts of the content was great, but other parts were less good. But again, I don't buy that, I would say, a network issue, because you can see that the network is almost not used, right? The most part are being used by OBS, which makes sense. But still, there's enough bandwidth. If we would switch to this view, right, the performance view, this is the Ethernet connection. You see it's 500 kilobit, 1 megabit, I would say, and I've got a 1 gigabyte link, right, which shouldn't, I would say, cause any issues at all. So I do think that it's not an issue on my end, but maybe more on the flight simulator end. And we know that it always happened with those world updates, that they were also massively trolling everybody because they couldn't cope with the load. In the meantime, it still has, would say, a lot of nice things loaded, right? You can see that the quality around the airport is, would say, well, discussable. One thing which I also observed is if you do this, you can still press the escape button, but the mouse cursor for some reason has been always hidden. I'm not sure what's causing this behavior. I'm still trying to figure that out. But hey, I would say it looks cool, right? So still some nice things. So let me get some drink and then let's wait till it loads the airport. So still goes, right? You can see that things are changing. Some liveries are changing for some of the aircrafts. But it goes pretty well, right? Pretty well, nice details. You see that the state of the stream is still good. So that's nice. Well, as mentioned, I'm likely going to decrease, I would say, some speed. Again, I'm not 100% sure if that's causing the, I would say, sometimes behavior that it shows, hey, low bandwidth for Flight Simulator. I don't buy it, again, but maybe it is the case. So we're almost 1 hour playing Flight Simulator, right? So the goal is not to, I would say, do the stream for a very extended time, but maybe I would say up till, let's say, 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock max, and have a look at some of the defaults. Then I will go offline for some time because I really want to play it myself and see, okay, what's going on, right? Want to make sure that the controls have been set up correctly, because as you could see, setting up the controls is really, I would say, something which you need to pay some attention to. Because if you don't do it, then just like me with that photo mode, you will likely crash into buildings, which you of course don't want to do. Of course, I could have used, I would say, an aircraft, for example, a Cessna or one of the other aircrafts where it would work. Probably a lot better compared to with that helicopter, right? I'm not a huge helicopter fan. I love, let's say, trying them out, but I'm not very good at flying with them, as you could have seen in the Paris stream already. So we're waiting for the content to be loaded, right? It takes some time, but hey, you need to have, I would say, you need to have some patience, and eventually it will work. Again, let's see what happens. So for those who are still on stream, right, thanks for watching the stream. I'm really happy that you are tuning in. Also wondering if you already bought Flight Simulator, and if you did, if you already played it on your machine, let me know what you were, I would say, experiencing. Did it work good for you? Did it look really nice? Or did you experience some issues, like, say, with graphics? So let me know via the chat in this window, in the chat box, and then I will read to them as we are waiting for EDDF Frankfurt Airport to load in Flight Simulator 2024. As you could see, it takes some time, a little bit longer as I expected, to be honest. But maybe if I treat it with, let's say, restarting it or maybe pressing escape, it will likely, I would say, be fixed, right? So you can see in this case, I would say, it doesn't do anything. So Flight Simulator really doesn't do anything on the network. 0.1 megabyte, right? That's really nothing. So giving it a few minutes, and let's see if it works. So positive rate aviation. Did you already play Flight Simulator, or are you completely focusing on X-Plane? Just wondering. So this is Flight Simulator 2024 for those who just joined. We're waiting for the content of Echo Delta Delta Foxtrot, also known as Frankfurt Airport, to load. There were some warnings about low bandwidth, so keep that in mind, that you need to have enough bandwidth to make sure that the game works pretty well. If you don't have enough bandwidth, right, then I would say, might face some issues. Do expect that in some cases will show the warning. Well, I don't buy it, to be honest. And to show you why I don't buy it, right, let's open, I would say, the stuff here, right? Let's do a speed test. In this case, Everybody knows speed test, right? So let's try it. In this case, we're gonna do a speed test by Ookla, reject all, and then press go. And here you will see that likely it's not even, I would say, the internet speed, right? Because you can see there's still enough speed left, right? It's a 1 gig link, and with those speed tests, it likely caps mostly to 500 meg, but there's still enough bandwidth left to download the content. I would say the part which is being performed, of course, is uploading the content, right? Uploading that stream. That will consume bandwidth, of course, but even there you can see that there's enough bandwidth. So I don't buy that it's being caused by, I would say, low bandwidth, that the loading takes longer. I do still think that Asobo is throttling like crazy. But that's my opinion. Not sure about this, right? But based on the experience from yesterday, they're really throttling some people, because else it likely doesn't work at all. So we're waiting for it to load, right? So we're 1 hour live already. So really nice to see people joining. So have fun watching this stream. In this stream, we're going to look to multiple options of Flight Simulator 2024 based on requests, right? So visiting some parts of the world. We visited Rodos. We did have a look at the photogrammetry or the photo options. We went to the discovery flights which are available. We also went to the missions available and the landing challenges which are available for you. So really nice. Currently, we're waiting for a Frankfurt airport to load, which, as you can see, takes long. So I'm not sure what's causing this behavior again, but let's give it some time, because I don't want to start from scratch again. Because I press escape now, I need to reselect the airport and then need to try it again. And that's of course something which I don't want to do. So let's see how this works, right? So say I'm already happy that I'm in the flight simulator, right? Because yesterday it was such a nightmare having those issues. If you wonder what was causing those issues, they found the root cause, right? So have a look at my channel, because I posted a video where I'm gonna explain what caused the issues, and also which kind of mitigation steps they have taken already. But it looks like there's still some more work to do. So probably I'd say Asobo and Microsoft are working hard to resolve those issues. I would say I'm getting a little bit impatient because I think it's taking far too long, if you ask me, for this content to be loaded. So let me think. So see you, Talking Ben. Thanks for watching this channel. Hope to see you back next time. So in this case, it takes too long, right? I'm not gonna buy it. I pressed escape now. If you do that, don't be afraid. It will, let's say, kind of freeze the simulator, but eventually it will, let's say, be released, and then you can continue, right? It will bring me back to the main menu in this case. I will definitely, I would say, look at the other airport, but likely a little bit later today. Maybe I'm posting a specific recording about this, because then I'm not hit by that bandwidth issue which they're, let's say, talking about. But that's something I'm going to try out, and of course we'll let you know once I'm there. So in this case, right, it still says, okay, hey, it's loading like crazy. So let's see. And if that happens, right, I would say that's the case. Could also be, of course, that now more people are waking up and more people are gonna try Flight Simulator. Maybe it's also some lunch break in some countries. Maybe some people are trying it over there. So I'm not sure what's going on, because this morning it worked far better than it currently does. Or they might still experience some issues. While talking about that, right, so while it's loading, let's have a look at the Asobo webpage, because there might be some updates about that one. So let's go to flightsimulator.com. In this case, we close this one and then say, okay, hey, did they have anything else to report besides, let's say, what they already did? No, there's not a lot here. So we can look at the community over here to see, okay, hey, what did they found, or did they found anything? Discussion hub again. Let's have a look at it. General discussions, and then see if there's some news about this. So here, stuck on customized identity. That's also what I saw with other people which are experiencing this. Peripherals not intuitive at all. Fully agree with that. Graphics are soup. But I do think that it has to do with server load, right? Here you can also see that in the UK, they tried to reinstall it and tried the NordVPN method, which is, I would say, then you're connecting via, say, another country, and then they'll say the quality wasn't that good. Then there was some ask, okay, how is it going with Flight Simulator now? Well, I think more people are in now as we speak. But as you can see, this was from last night. Here also some people said, okay, hey, they can't get past the 97%. So that's why I likely don't want to leave, because I'm also afraid that if I do that, I'm in the same boat again. So likely, say, server capacity is being pressured again. That's something I do expect to, I would say, I didn't expect to happen again during this time frame, right? But it looks like some more people are, let's say, now just joining and are reporting issues. For me, it's still loading, right? So really bad, really bad. I don't like it. It worked perfectly this morning. I played it some time and it worked pretty nicely. But here you can also see people, that the people are reporting that they're stuck again, right? So likely I would say there's some issues again. So one thing which you can keep in mind is if you have a look at the Xbox live status. 2024, you should be able to see, okay, hey, what's the status, right? So here you can see Game Rant has also posted an article about this. But I believe there was a specific website, was not this one, but you can still check it. There was a status, no, there was the Xbox Live status. Pretty sure I saw it somewhere. Status, which will show you the information, right? So in this case, this is the Xbox Live status, which will show you the information. So again, according to them, everything is up and running, right? If you would open the gaming features, you can see that everything is running as it should. So there are no issues reported at all. But believe me, there's something going on, right? So in the meantime, it has went back to this normal mode. So let's go back and let's see if we can do a world photographer mode. But in this case, using, let's say, one of the airports, or let's say an easier aircraft. Let's say that. So Bird's Eye on Central Park. And then if you press this one, right, you can use multiple options. In this case, it's evening hours, right? So that likely is a little bit difficult. So let's move to a different part of the world. And this is the Chile's Lush. Then we've got the Banff in Canada. But I'm looking more for somewhere where it's, I would say, not that dark, right? So let's hit back again. And then let's look at the European Castle Tour, which is, of course, in, I would say, Europe. Then we're going to look at this one, right? So let's say select. Then we'll start loading the details. So it will say, okay, hey, photograph it from here, right? If you want to earn bonus points, you do it from the river band in the background and the castle in close up. Well, let's see. Here again, you can see it starts loading. And this again is, let's say, something which will happen on very occasionally. And then we'll start loading all the content. This again will result in some warnings. You can see here that the bandwidth low again is being shown multiple times, which will impact how fast it will load. So make sure that if you're playing this, that you've got enough bandwidth available. I'm not sure if these, I would say, error messages or warnings are, I would say, correct. Because to be honest, I don't buy it because I have enough bandwidth available. But maybe there are some specific things going on. Especially looking at the fora from Flight Simulator 2024, I saw some issues already being reported again about things going, I would say, the wrong direction again. So looking at the, I would say, Discord chat, here it also says that people reporting with 2.5 gigs of internet that their bandwidth is too low. And that really, and here it's also mentioned and confirmed that, hey, it's not you, it's the server side again, which is causing some issues. So let me see. Let's keep the fingers crossed. I'm not gonna start anything or restart anything currently, because then we're in the same spot as we were yesterday doing the live stream, right? Where I couldn't show you anything, and that's of course not what I want to do. So while we're talking, right, we're still waiting for this to load. So let me show you some other stuff which you might have not figured out yet. So if you go to flightsimulator.com, there's now a new web service which is called the Flight Planner. So the Flight Planner, if for those who are, I would say, familiar with SimBrief or maybe with Navigraph, they will recognize this. And what you can do with this nice service is you can plan your flights. The good thing is that if you press this one, it contains all the aircrafts which are part of Flight Simulator 2024, and you can switch due to the multiple modes, right? So for example, the Cessna 172, and then you can see that you've got, let's say, the different aircraft types, right? The aerial advertising, the cargo, the passengers, whatever you want, you can select it, and then you can press the E from India to see some more information about this. Once you've done that, you can start planning your flight, of course. And planning your flight is as easy as, I would say, either searching here. So you can see that I already searched yesterday for several ones. So you can press it. Then it will be added to the origin airport, right? So in this case, Rotterdam The Hague Airport. If I zoom out a bit, then you can see that it has loaded the map. Pretty nice. Then the next step, of course, is adding the departure. Adding the departure is the standard instrumental departure route which you're going to use. You can select this, but it's not mandatory to do it, right? You can still decide not to use it. However, if you want to do it, you can see that it has a lot of nice options, because as soon as you, let's say, hover over these items, it will show you the, I would say, direction in which you go, right? So if you fly to the south, then you are likely using this one. If you want to fly to the east, then you likely will use this one. So I'm going to select this one and press select, which will make sure that this is being added to the flight plan. So now we're there, right? Let's see where we want to fly to. In this case, Echo Delta Delta Golf, which is Münster Osnabrück Airport. You can see also the information shown here, right? You can see the meter information. If you want to see the weather details, you can also press this option where you see the weather details. You can see the runways. You can see the wind, right? This red, which means that there's a strong wind. And also the frequencies are there, right, for the multiple options. The good thing is that once you select the airport, you also have the availability for the charge, right? The standard instrumental departure charge in this case. But in my case, I want to take an arrival or an approach. And that's where you can find all the stars, right? The standard terminal arrival routes. Or you can switch to the approaches which are available. Localizers, ILSs, RNAVs, whatever you want. The good thing is that once you've landed, there's always the challenge to find the taxiway, right? In this case, those charts are also included. So you can see where the aprons are, right? Where you, the even numbered ones, you can find the taxi, I would say, routes which are there. Really makes it useful, easy and useful to have a look at. This content can also be accessed from within the simulator, but I would say I prefer to do it like this because is so much easier. Then, if we decide to use this as the airport, right, you can go to the information and then say add to route. We'll ask you, okay, where do you want to add it? Well, I want to do it as the destination airport. In this case, it will draw a line, and then you can see the distances which you need to say fly between each beacon. And that's really nice. But if you want to do it more professional, right, not flying a straight line, you can go to the route option again. Here you will find the routes which it has defined. But if you would go to this one, then you can also say, hey, I want to use the auto route. If you press that option, you can see that multiple other things are being added to the flight plan, right, which makes it easy to navigate. Also, you can see that this one is, let's say, pretty cool. Don't forget to change the KTAS, right, which is the target speed, as well as the flight level, or in this case, the feet. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, hey, maximum 75. Oh, let me adjust it, right? So let me do that. 75. Come on, 75. Whoa. That's the maximum speed. And I want to fly at an altitude of 5,000 feet, which is, I would say, good. Then it will adjust the information, right? It will adjust the flight time, etc. And then you are coming with that performance options. And those performance options are there to say show you the average fuel burn rate. So in this case, I would say it's set to 0. If you don't specify anything here, what will happen is that it will likely not populate those fuel and payload options over here. So you need to specify something here, and that's where it becomes difficult because I didn't find a way yet how to use that functionality. So in this case, I'm going to say, hey, it will be, well, 10 gallons, maybe. Not sure. That's realistic. So likely you will need to find some information on the internet about this to see how you can populate this. Once you're ready, you can go to the flight details where you can specify your registration, the airline method, your flight number, your call sign, and then of course the flight time as well as the off-block time, right? Which is to say, if you can change it. One thing which I'm missing in this tool, of course, is the help functionality, which you'll say isn't there. That would be really nice if they could add it over here, right? That's really cool. Some other options are on the right side, but I will go to them in a few seconds. Once we're there, right, you might need to change your aircraft equipment. For example, you might decide to set to squawk, and you can define your equipment. In this case, you can say, hey, I want to have the standard equipment. I'm not sure what the effect will be if you're not selecting this. And then we can say, hey, it's a scheduled flight, right? Or it's a general aviation flight. In this case, general aviation is fine for me. Because we populated the gallons, right? It also populated the gallons over here, except for taxiing. So you can define it because it depends on, let's say, where you're departing from. But in this case, you can see that it sometimes doesn't want to change. That's really weird. Yesterday it worked. You can change this if you want. And then after that, right, you can add some additional fuel. Right, the extra fuel carried by the decision of the captain and the additional tankering for the return trip if that's required. And here you can see the other options over there, right? So you can see some more information there. And this is what I meant with that route option. It would have been nice if they would have, let's say, added some more information here or some more reference to this. Besides that, you can change the zero fuel weight as well as you can randomize the load, which adds some cargo as well as some passengers. Depending on the let's say load you will do, and then you can also reset it if you don't like it. In this case, 16% of the load, right, which is good. And then you're ready for the briefing. Navlog is available as well as the OFP, and you can hover over these items, which will tell you a lot of things, right? So, for example, if you look at the plant view, you can see all the things which are there, which will help you to make the OFP easier readable, right? So no tankering recommended, so that's very good. And if we scroll to these, we will eventually find the whole flight plan, including, let's say, airways, but also I would say, if it's direct, right, that's DCT, it stands for direct. If you're seeing this in your flight plan, then you know that you are flying in direct. The advantage of using, let's say, an airway is that it's far more easy to program it in your aircraft. And it's a lot, I would say, it goes a lot quicker. Then you can see the ICAO flight plan, right, where you can hover over. You can see the wind information and a lot of nice other stuff. In addition to that, what it did automatically, it added all the information for the airports, but also the standard instrumental departure, as well as the arrival, if you selected one, to your kneeboard, which makes it easier to navigate during your flight, right? So that's really cool. If I would have added a procedure for the destination airport, it would also be automatically added to the kneeboard. So what are other options? Not too much. You can change some options are here from the altimeter, the weights, the view, as well as the nav log. Right, you can set IFR, VFR, or modern log, also applicable. And then eventually you can save the flight plan. If you save the flight plan, the cool thing is that once you saved it, let me press it, you can press it again, and then you can copy the link and share it with your friends so that you can fly together on this flight. Right, that's cool. In the meantime, let's just see how far it is. It made some progress, right? So we're going to use the Cupcraft with Xcup, and then we're going to look at the flight conditions, which you can dynamically change. By default, they are set to preset, but if you want to change it, you of course can do that. So let's say start exploring, and then we likely need to wait another few minutes because it needs to load all the content. Well, maybe it was smart enough to load that content already in the background, but to be honest, I don't believe that it's really smart enough to do that. So now we're in that waiting stage again, right? It starts loading all the content. You can see that the snow is there. You can also see that I would say mountains around us, which will make it challenging. You can even see some pickles on the screen, right? I'm not sure what it is, but that looks pretty nice. So let's see. While we're talking, right, let's quickly switch back to the flight planning mode again. Because now we need to wait, and I will keep an eye on it. So what are the other options? Well, you can switch on certain options. In some cases, some of these options are not really, would say, working, like this one, right? It doesn't have any functionality. But for example, you can change the traffic or the traffic flows which are there, right? IFR low, you can fly VFR, or you can say IFR high. As you can see, it's modified, but you can still reset it by pressing this option. The second one allows you to show the airports, and the next one shows the nav-aids, right? The navigation options which are there, the airways, the VORs, the NDBs, the DMEs, the 4 DMEs, TACONs, 4TAC, and the localizers, which you can easily switch on or off, or completely switch off the category by using the top menu. Then we've got the waypoints, the en routes, and the terminals, as well as the VFR reporting points. Those by default have been switched off for now, right? Because we're selected the IFR mode, not the VFR mode. And then you've got the airspaces, which you can do. So you can change A, B, C, D up to G, then MORA, for lower airspace in the UIR upper space, which you can define. Restricted airspaces, by default they are switched off, but if you would switch them on, it will show you where you shouldn't fly or which ones are military. So keep an eye on that, because you might say, I'm not sure if they're taking action. If you're playing Flight Simulator, I don't expect it to be honest. But you don't want to, let's say, be in a bad state. Measurements. That really looks like that you can measure something, although it has been grayed out currently. And then we've got the cloud coverage, the perception, as well as the wind barbs. And then you can play it, right? You can say, okay, hey, what will the weather do in this case? You can see that, okay, in my case, on 20 feet, there's not a lot. But if you would decrease it, right, or increase the altitude, also not a lot's happening, to be honest. And that has to do with, can we show it? Yeah, I would have expected a little bit more from this. But hey, maybe that's me. Then we've got these other things like the cities, the building areas, the highways, roads, etc. That's where you can, I'd say, add some additional stuff, right? And it will load like this. You can see that might take some time before it loads, but that will give you some good things, especially if you fly VFR. That might be interesting to do, right? So let's see where we are here. It's still loading. Still loading, my friends. Let me know if you already are in, right? If you already were able to join Flight Simulator this morning. I was able to get in twice really quick. It took a little bit more time than compared to the alpha release, but it was, say, doable. And I already did some flights, which initially worked good, but it looks like that it now goes, let's say, in the wrong direction again. What are other options which you can do? I don't think that you can do much more any here, right? So the only thing is you can open flight plans. You can create new ones. If you click on open, you will find the flight plans which you previously created, because it's stored in the cloud as far as I understand, because you really see that, okay, nothing happens over here. You can save a copy of it. Those are the options from the flight planner, which is available on planet.flightsimulator.com. So let's have a look. On the Xbox status, is there any issue reported? No, currently everything is fine according to them. I would say I doubt, because I do think that there are some issues. So let's go to the Flight Simulator webpage again, and then see what they're reporting. Another good way to monitor it is by following them on Twitter, right? So if you go to MSF support, you will find them, right? So you will find this information. So what do they say? Well, not a lot, to be honest. Because they say, okay, hey, this is the show the status page. Well, that's what we just did, right? But there's nothing happening. Everything is green. Well, that's not the case, my friends, because it simply takes too long. So we're 5 minutes before 12:30. Based on what I'm currently experiencing, I do think that it might be better to stop streaming, let's say for now, and then try again later today. Because I don't want you to watch this screen for an entire long period. Because I don't think that you want to watch this, right? You want to see how is the flying experience? How is it? Is it good? Is it bad? Well, currently it's a little bit hard to say because the loading times are really, I would say, massively. If you did get messages about low bandwidth on your end, don't take it for granted because it's definitely not an issue on your end. It's more likely an issue on the Asobo end where they perform some throttling to, I would say, protect their servers. That's something I do expect to be, I would say, happening. Again, I don't have a proof for that, but based on the reactions which I see on several other platforms, such as, I would say, Discord, for example, I can see more and more people are starting to report issues really, I would say, the last hour. So people started to report issues around 11 o'clock-ish. After that, people are saying, okay, hey, that they will have some issues again. In some cases, they tried it, but it's not what it should be, right? So let's see. Do we think it will be ready within 4 minutes? I don't think it will be, to be honest. So with that, also looking at, at the things which are going on, I think I will call this stream now to an end, and then I will try it again later today because this doesn't really make sense waiting this long. So thanks for watching. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this as a recording, thanks for watching this one. I see future KLM pilot. He's also waiting. He says, how long do you load in? Because I have the same issue. So it's the server issues again, right? So thanks for watching. Also, have a look at my channel because I will post some new videos about Flight Simulator 2024 as soon as I'm in again. Again, thanks for watching and see you back hopefully really soon with some new live streams, which I'm going to post or which I'm going to create. Maybe today, depending on if I'm able to get into Flight Simulator again.